We're driving down the road, my mother, my siblings, and me, when we spot an elderly woman sprawled on her front lawn. She's on her back, and she appears to be pretty dead. The summer air is as sticky as cotton candy. We live in a small Livingston County town, and we're driving to our friend's house because they have something we don't, a pool. Seeing the woman on the ground, my mother immediately swerves the car into her driveway. My sister, who is the oldest and by far the smartest among us, surveys the scene with the wisdom of her 12 years and says, "Maybe she's just getting a tan." In the back seat, my 11-year-old brother is angry at Mom for stopping to help. Slumping in his seat, he sulks, "We hardly ever get in a real pool." Then there's my middle brother, the only one among us to inherit a love of farming. She's probably just taking a break from pulling weeds," he says. Me, I'm 8 years old and gobsmacked, convinced what I'm witnessing is in fact a very dead body. Remarkably, what I see on the ground is not the skinny old woman my siblings and my mother will recall decades later. You know that scene in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban where Harry gets so mad at his Aunt Marge that he magically transforms her into a grotesque human-shaped balloon? That's what I see pinned to the grass, as if the woman is already a bloated corpse. We pass our wisdom down from generation to generation. Mom grew up on a Genesee County farm that was founded by her great-great-grandfather in 1818. Like all farm kids, she had chores. She tended chickens, gathered eggs, harvested hay, and cleaned the house. She was also the big sister of 3 rowdy boys. When she was 12, an exploding tractor tire nearly killed her father. The blow scissored his cheeks just under his nose, leaving bloody flaps of skin the length of his face, along with a grisly, macabre grin. In his characteristically stoic fashion, Grandpa didn't think he was badly hurt, and somehow he managed to convey this message to my grandmother. Now picture him in this moment as John Cleese playing the Black Knight in the famous scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. After having his arm chopped off, the Black Knight says petulantly, "It's just a flesh wound." Well, Grandma was much too sensible a woman to listen to her husband's manly bullshit. Instead of waiting for an ambulance, she shoved him in the car and drove him straight to the hospital in Batavia, saving his life. Within days, to no one's surprise, Grandpa was back to work. It's out of this practical, hardworking, no-nonsense, can-do environment that my mom emerged. When setbacks happen, you pick yourself up and you get back to work. And when you see someone on the ground, you bolt into action. Mom parks our station wagon and hustles over to the woman while we watch from inside the hot car. After a moment, she rushes inside the woman's house. A few moments later, an ambulance arrives with its lights flashing. We're finally free to swim in our friend's pool. I'm bursting at the seams with enthusiasm when Mom finally returns to the car. "Mom," I shout, "you're going to get a medal." To my kid brain, this seems like a truly awesome thing. The woman suffered a heat stroke, and my mother saved her life. But Mom settles into the driver's seat and shakes her head. Without even considering the awesomeness of a medal, she says, "You don't do things to get medals, honey." Later that same summer, I sifted through our mail and discovered a letter addressed to Mrs. William Semmel. I distinctly recall puzzling over the peculiar fact that in this melding of names, my mom's entire being was subsumed within my father, invisibilizing her. She'd already lost her family name. Now she lost her given name. This seemed particularly odd, since it was my mom who cooked and cleaned and kept us kids washed and clothed and fed while Dad worked long hours as a truck driver for Wegmans. She wasn't invisible. She was the spine holding my childhood and our family together. In 1996, Dad was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, likely the result of exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. The disease forced him into early retirement. Although he made it through, he was plagued by recurring ailments ever since and racked with debilitating bouts of depression. Last year, Dad had a triple bypass. There were complications leading up to the surgery, and Mom sat by his side for days at the hospital. A year later, his body weakened. Dad is back in the hospital for what is, earlier today he passed away. The last time. Mom gathers her strength and fights through her exhaustion to be with him every single day. A loving wife, devoted to the very end. When I gaze back at my childhood with the clarity of my adult self, I recognize that Mom's humble indifference to public recognition is a core building block of my life. If my own son learns one thing from me, let it be what my mom taught me: kindness and humility. That's actually two things. She shies away from the spotlight. She didn't get a medal for helping the woman who'd collapsed on her lawn, and she won't get a medal for her steadfast devotion to her children and husband of nearly 60 years. But she doesn't care. You don't do things to get medals, after all. You do things because they're the right things to do. When you see a person lying on the ground, for example, you're the one who swerves the car into the driveway to help. I've carried this valuable lesson with me for 40 plus years. I understood long ago that Mom is far more than just Mrs. William Semmel, a woman concealed behind a man's name on an envelope. If she stepped forward today into the limelight of public recognition, you'd recognize her as a woman of enormous strength and fortitude. If you introduce yourself, she'd humbly tell you her name is Sue.